Alright guys, well, I'm back today with a brand new Palmetto State Armory Sabre offering from their AR-10 lineup. We are looking at the PSA Sabre-10 K1, which is a clone or copy of the Knight's Armament M110 K1, and these guys have been really killing it when it comes to a lot of the clone builds lately, especially with their Sabre lineups, both in the AR-15 and AR-10 variety. We're going to be talking about the specs and features of this rifle, how it performed down at the range, and we're going to talk about this, how it shot suppressed, unsuppressed with an LPO, and a long-range optic. So let's get into it, starting with the front and working our way to the back. I also want to give a huge shout out to AAC Ammo for providing all of the ammo to help make this video. We ran about 4 different varieties, and we'll talk about those in the accuracy department, but the AAC has been running absolutely great through this setup and a ton of other setups. So again, a huge shout out to these guys. Now, starting at the front, it does come with the standard, what I would consider PSA's standard 3-prong flash hider. They are all different lengths, so you don't get that ping. I love it, but I was instantly going to run suppressed because right off the bat, you can see it's got an exposed adjustable gas block, which is super convenient to tune everything in. And one of the greatest things about PSA, especially with a lot of their Sabre lineups, is they are designed to be suppressed with either pin and weld chemo devices, AAC 51 tooth, silencer co, ASRs, or a ton of other options. But this particular one was just 5/8 by 24 thread pitch with the 3-prong, and I added the chemo muzzle device, and it works out really good on this 16-inch barrel. That's another thing I love about this Sabre lineup. It's not one of those super long barrels to where you add a suppressor and almost becomes unmanageable down at the range. This 16-inch 308 with a low back pressure cannon and adjustable gas block shoots like a dream, but we'll talk about more about that in the reliability and function section of this review. Now, this gas block is super convenient to adjust down at the range, and it really helps you get dialed in specifically for the ammo you're using, or the rifle speed gas block helps you adjust it if you're going to be running suppressed. Now, in the standard configuration with 150 grain ball ammo AAC, I ran this between 9 and 10, but primarily I put it on 10 just to make sure it locked back and cycled great. And you do have a few more positions after 10 that you can crank it up to if you needed to. So that is really nice that you've got a few positions up and down, actually a lot lower if you're running super high back pressure cans, to get it dialed in specifically for what you want. And when you got this dialed in, it ran 100% functional with no issues whatsoever. We didn't have a single feed issue, a single jam, or any types of functional issues with this gun. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the reliability and performance section. But just know once you get the gas set up, you're good to go. Now, I ran the Dead Air Sandman and the Dead Air Sandman X. You can get away with running the Dead Air Sandman X on practically the same setting as you would unsuppressed because it is such a low back pressure can. But when you start running standard cans like the Dead Air that are a standard baffle design, it's nice because you can turn that gas down and then get it tuned in perfectly. And once you get it tuned in, especially with a comp on the end, this thing rattles off shots and you can transition from target to target, and it works out beautifully. A very light recoiling 308 compared to other 308s in the market. Now, this is surrounded by that clone K1 rail system from the Knight's Armament. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different than the Knight's Armament. I believe the Knight's Armament had the ability to add extra panels and things like that with certain threaded inserts, and that's not exactly the same, but it gives you the same feel, a nice tapered down smooth edge. I'm sure you could figure out a way to add whatever extra panels you wanted to, but a monolithic pick rail at the top, which I love, and it gives you some extra pick rail at the front if you wanted to do some type of clip-on the front, or if you wanted to do an offset light, IR laser, or something like that with the pressure pad. It gives you all that room. So still a very functional clone build, even though it is a clone build. I love that pick rail at the top, QD slots at the front and rear, pick rail at the front and rear on the sides and the bottom. So love this rail setup, really like everything about it. And on top of that, it looks cool. It surrounds that 16-inch coated barrel, and the barrel itself did pretty good. Let's talk about that accuracy, especially with the AAC ammo used. So we started started off using the bulk pack 150 grain AAC. I have the most of that, and I probably shot close to about 200 rounds just to get the feel for reliability, suppressed and unsuppressed. It's zero issues. Once you get that dialed in, it just chugs along like a sewing machine. No function issues. Ran 3 different types of mags. You've got the Lancer mags that are a lot of times included, the standard metal mags that are included, as well as the Magpul P mags. Don't worry, these are all lower capacity than what YouTube allows. So YouTube, don't demonetize the video. We're following the rules here. One thing to note about that 150 grain is when it comes to accuracy, it would be pretty tight, and then we would get a flyer occasionally with the 150 grain FMJ. So what would be normally like 1.5 inch, 2 inch groups, if you shot a 5-shot group, and that's what I was shooting for this particular accuracy review, we'd get a flyer and it would stretch it out to about 3-inch groups on average, 5-shot groups with the 150 grain. Now, when we switch to the 150 grain hunting ammo, it actually shrunk pretty consistently across the board with 5-shot groups down to about 1.5 inches. So I was very impressed with that. Then we started running some of the more premium AAC like the 175, the OTMs, and a few other more premium AAC loads that they're offering. And we got the group to shrink down to about 1.3 inches. I think 1.25 inch groups at 100 yards on the tripod was the best accuracy we got out of it. So this is right at about a little over 1 inch MOA with match ammo. Now, maybe I could have sandbagged it and squeezed out a little bit more accuracy or try like a 5th or 6th load, but honestly, I'm very content with the accuracy and performance out of this 308, especially when it comes to reliability and the fact that this is a 16-inch barrel. So really loved the performance of this, especially with some of the more premium ammo. We were getting about 1.25 inch groups. So again, 3 inches with ball ammo, about 1.5 inches with some of the hunting rounds we shot. And then it would get close to 1 inch, but not quite with some of the more premium ammo. Now let's take a look at the upper and lower receivers. Now this is going to be a billet setup, and this billet setup is going to work with other billet setups from PSA. So if you wanted to mix and match, it's going to be pretty good. Now I failed to mention the barrel materials here. I'm remembering now that we're talking about the billet upper and lower. Let's talk about that barrel. It's a 16-inch 4150 chromoly with a 1-in-7 twist. So really good barrel. And then the upper itself is again going to be that 7075 T6 with the FDE Cerakote. Now, inside that is going to be a really solid bolt carrier group. Now, this is the Sabre AR-10 BCG with Sprinco gas rings and the OKC gas key and fasteners. Those work out really well. I've never had a function issue with any of the AR-10s from PSA, and I've never had any functional issues with the AR-10s. They seem to have come a long way in developing their AR-10s to run reliably, and I've only seen positive things. No forward assist on the billets, but you do get the dust cover and you get the Radian Raptor LT charging handle. So love that charging handle that they've included. And the lower is going to be ambi. You've got a mag release and a bolt release, and you're going to get that bolt lock open on the other side right there. So that's pretty convenient. Ambi safety right there. And then you're going to get a really nice trigger on this guy. It's the Sabre's 2-stage trigger. They do a really good job with this trigger. You've got the anti-walk pins right here. You've got really nice texturing on the controls. And when you're talking about the Sabre controls, they've always done a really good job. And I don't feel like the trigger limited me in accuracy in any shape or form. It really lended to the accuracy and performance of this rifle. It ran great. The reset was audible and tactile. And you've got a really nice trigger on this guy. I'll show you guys real quick one time on camera, although it's always hard to kind of tell triggers on camera. I'll show you guys the reset right here. So very short, audible, and tactile. You've got that smooth take up to the first stage. And then a really nice crisp break right there. So love that. It also comes with the B5 Systems furniture, QD slots, rubberized butt pads. This is the furniture I'm putting on everything, or a variation of the B5 Systems right here. Now, internally, when we are looking at that, it's actually running a heavy buffer, and then you're going to have that Sabre buffer tube on there. So it's a really nice buffer setup to help mitigate some of that recoil and give it a little bit more reliability down at the range when you are running this rifle. But again, it was 100% functional, especially with that adjustable gas block. Love this setup down at the range. In summary, this is a fairly accurate rifle. It's incredibly reliable. Have I had more accurate AR-10s? Yes, there are some builds that I've done that I can get 0.75, 0.8 inch groups or an inch group fairly consistently with match ammo, but I was spending actually a lot more than this. I think the MSRP on these guys is right around like $13.99, and that might include like a $200 drag bag with it. So you're really looking at like an $1,100-1,200 MSRP, which is insane value for money. It gives you the look of a Knight's armament. It gives you the performance of a great, solid AR-10 when it comes to accuracy and reliability. And it also gives you a ton of added performance when it comes to running this suppressed and unsuppressed with the adjustable gas lock and the seamless transition of this rail system to add a ton of different accessories on there. This was a big win for PSA in my humble opinion, but let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I originally ran it with an LPVO, then I threw the long-range optic. I'm going to try to go with something in between on this one. I feel like the LPVO, maybe a 1 to 10 would be perfect for a 16-inch setup like this to use up close or far away, especially with that 16-inch barrel. But I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What optic you think I should permanently run on this? Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks to AAC for sponsoring the ammo, and thanks to PSA for sending this out at my request. As soon as I saw it released at SHOT Show, I waited a little bit for the fuss to die down. I put in my request. These guys honored it and sent it out for me to test and evaluate. I don't have to send it back, so I'll update you guys on its performance. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.